Hi, everybody. Welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. Believe it or not, I do think about things other than the second coming, and I have a personal spiritual life that I'm always trying to improve. I'm trying to progress and change myself and repent and overcome weaknesses. And the other day, I was encountering an issue, something that I needed to not do. And I had this thought: if I use my inner voice, my internal monologue, and I tell myself, don't do that thing, or on the flip side, do this thing instead, would that be more effective using the inner voice rather than just not doing it or doing something else, but include that into the process? And I had the thought, what if this inner voice that we have, what if that's like a mechanism of the spirit? It's your spirit's way of controlling your natural man, in a sense, or it's like a tool in controlling yourself when you actually talk to yourself in your mind. Now, you see this article that I have up. This is from Medium. It says only 30 to 50% of people have an internal monologue. Is it really possible for people to not have an internal monologue? And so I want to explore this idea and think about the implications. This is mostly just going to be speculation, and maybe not even speculation, more just like wondering about things. But let me show you a scripture. This is a pretty famous scripture. It's James 3, starting in verse 3. Behold, we put bits in horses' mouths that they may obey us, and we turn about their whole body. Behold also the ships, which though they be so great and are driven of fierce winds, yet they are turned about in a very small helm, whithersoever the governor listeth. Even so, the tongue is a little member, and boasteth great things. Behold, how great a matter a little fire kindleth. It's like little fires can really grow really big. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. So is the tongue among our members, that it defileth the whole body, and setteth on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire of hell. When you click on tongue, it pulls up these scriptures. And this one in particular is Mark chapter 7, verse 21. And it expands on what we just read from James, where it's not just, your tongue and what you say, but it's essentially your thoughts, like your inner self and how that affects the rest of the world. The things that you think, the things that you say, of course, the things that you do. But these are mostly focused on the way that you talk and also the way that you think. How it's very, very small, but it influences so much. Okay, so now I don't know. This could be strictly a psychological thing. Maybe it's biological, or maybe it's not. Do our scientists have a way to tell if it's spiritual? No, they don't take that into account. They just, use the tools, instruments, methods available to them to try and understand reality from an objective, empirical standpoint. So they wouldn't be able to tell us, well, yes, this is what we see on the empirical side, but subjectively, it's actually because of your spirit. We don't know. So that's why we can't say anything with certainty. But I want to explore a couple of things with you here in just a minute. I put out a poll before I started this. So far, I've gotten 80 votes or 80 responses. The question was, how often do you experience internal monologue, i.e. inner voice, private speech, talking to yourself in your mind? And I was actually shocked to see that 73% of the responses so far are always, and then 18% for often, and then only 6% for sometimes, 4% for not often. Now, of course, this could maybe be skewed. Maybe if somebody's taking this poll, they see the results coming in and they want to fit in with everybody else, and so they lie. I don't know. People do that. But, it's probably mostly right, I would imagine. And this is interesting, because my audience is a Latter-day Saint audience. And so if most of us really are trying to keep the commandments and we're exercising self-control and things like that, maybe it would stand to reason that more of us would have this internal monologue if it's not just strictly a psychological thing. Does that make sense? Um, so let's read a few things. Well, actually, before I get to these articles, I wanted to point to this. I have this playlist called Recommended Videos, and this is full of videos from other channels that I think are really worth watching, covering all sorts of different topics. I have a number of videos that have to do with narcissism. Now, psychology has its way of understanding narcissism, and I'm not in a position to say, oh yeah, this is strictly scientific, this is strictly psychological or not. But I am entitled to my own opinions. And I tend to think that narcissism and the study of narcissism is essentially just the study of evil. That's the way that I feel, because everything that describes these people, when you look in the Bible, it's not called narcissism. It's just flat out called evil. Manipulation, lying, stealing, lack of love, empathy, things like that. That's how you describe a narcissist. And the freaky thing is this. I watch this guy pretty often. His name is Sam Vaknin. So these are my two most recent videos that I've added to this playlist. Sam Vaknin. He's an Israeli. He's Jewish. And he is a leading expert in narcissism. He had already had a couple other professions before this, but in his life, he had hit rock bottom a number of times and gone to psychologists, and each time he was diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. And he came to accept it, and he actually got into the field of psychology and became an expert in narcissism. There's very few narcissists that will admit that they are narcissists, because by admitting that, you're admitting that you're a flawed person, that there's something wrong with you, and that's something that they don't typically do. In his case, it works out because, he gets attention by his career, and he admits that. And but this is one source that we have where, like, this information is coming directly from the source, because he himself is a narcissist, and he has said some of the most freaky things that I've heard in my life. So I have 3 videos here. I'll put the link for these in the description box below. But he talks about the fact that a narcissist is somebody that there's nobody inside. You're empty on the inside. Everything is just external. It's all a fake facade, but there's really nothing going on the inside. And what I think happens is this. We all come from the premortal life. We come here, and this world is traumatic. We all experience trauma to one degree or another. And how we react to that determines whether we survive spiritually or we die. And so I think that there's a number of people, they come to this life, they experience the harshness of this life, the trauma, and they decide, oh, you know what? I am not doing this. Like their spirit on the inside, they say, this is too hard. I'm just going to withdraw. I'm going to give everything over. I'm going to give all the control over to the natural man. The natural man, or the fake facade, is going to protect me. The natural man is adapted to this world. It's programmed to compete and strive and survive and, rise to the top of the ladder. It's the law of the jungle. And so I'm just going to give everything over to the natural man, and I'm just going to sit back and watch. Whereas other people, they experience the same trauma, but instead of retreating, instead of just handing everything over to the natural man, they rise to the challenge and they overcome that obstacle, and they hold on to their humanity. They hold on to their spirit. They hold on to the principles of the gospel and principles of light, and they remain in control. Okay. So in my mind, the way that I see it is we all come here and we all die. Well, some of us completely die. We're all technically spiritually dead because we're separated from the presence of God. But in this sense, we come here and there are those that survive. You know, they do the best that they can. They try and overcome, and even better, they come across Christ, learn his teachings, accept him, and they survive. And then they live on and achieve what's called eternal life or exaltation. And it's like what we're doing is when we send out missionaries and we do the work of salvation and we try and gather scattered Israel, what we're doing is like we're surveying all of humanity, and we're looking for the survivors. You know, we want to help everybody possible and try and help everybody come back to life and live. But essentially, what we're doing is we're looking for the survivors, the ones that want to survive, that want to live spiritually. Not everybody wants to do that. So this is something that he says in this video, and I would encourage you to watch this. The name of this video is How I Experienced My Narcissism, Aware, Not Healed. And he tells a little story about Richard Nixon. Says Richard Nixon went to see a psychiatrist. He got himself to treatment, believe it or not. And the first thing he told the psychiatrist, the first meeting, in the first minute of the first session, Nixon said, "When I look in the mirror, there's nobody there. So silent." Now, Sam Vaknin himself says this in these two videos about himself. This one is called Lecture, Narcissist, There is Nobody Home. And he says, one of the biggest frustrations of intimate partners of narcissists is that there is nobody there. There's nobody then there's like a translator because he's like speaking to a Hungarian audience. So some of this is probably a little bit off. If you are an intimate partner of a narcissist, a girlfriend, spouse, a child, a good friend, if you are an intern, intimate relations with a narcissist, when you reach beyond the false self, what you find nothing. There's nobody there. There's nobody there. And in this one, he says, so it is impossible for you to grasp that there is nobody here behind the lectern. Trust me on this. There is nobody here. You are experiencing mass delusion when we come to it. When we come to it, this phenomenon is known as uncanny valley. So he talks about the fact in these different videos that there's nobody there. He talks about the fact that he watches his life like somebody watching a movie, where, you know, just occasionally he'll check in on one Sam Vaknin and see how things are going. But largely, the true self is just gone, not even participating in its own life. You know, it's almost like there's like another life. Everything's been given over to this false self. So understanding that, I can't help but to wonder if this accounts for why some people have an internal monologue. If your spirit has retreated and handed over all control to the natural man, then there may not be much dialogue between those two, because the spirit is just shattered. It's in a corner. It's scared. It's not acting. It's allowing itself to be a thing that's acted upon rather than a thing that is acting, as we learn in 2 Nephi about things that act and things that are acted upon. So let's read some of this. Okay, again, only 30 to 50% of people have an internal monologue. Is it really possible for people to not have an internal monologue? Now, I want to repeat, listen carefully. I'm not saying that if you don't have an internal monologue, you are bad, you're a narcissist. I don't know. I'm just kind of looking at these potential connections. We'll find out for sure after this life. We'll learn how everything works. Like I said, maybe this is strictly psychological, so please do not chew me out in the comment section. I'm just exploring ideas. You can see how maybe this could be the case. Okay, have you ever had a conversation with yourself inside your head? The most common answer on this website would probably be yes, of course. because medium.com is a writing website. It's common for writers and artists to have conversations with themselves. I should know because I sometimes have conversations with myself. They're called internal monologues. However, did you know that 30 to 50% of people don't have internal monologues? As in, they don't have conversations with themselves in their heads. And as someone who internalizes her monologue like a protagonist in a young adult novel, this fact absolutely baffles me. Ever since I first heard this fact, it made me question this. Is it really possible for people to not have an internal monologue? Okay, now we're going to hop to a different article. This is Healthline. Everything to know about your internal monologue. Before we jump into this, if it's true, I haven't studied this enough, but if it's true that writers, creative people have more, they more often tend to experience internal monologue. That could also be associated with spirit, because I strongly believe that if your spirit is not acting, if it's retreated, and all you have is natural man, I don't think natural man is very good at creating things. I think that creating things, whether it's art, books, whatever, I think that takes spirit. I think that natural man can imitate things. I think that it can copy things, but I think it's probably rare that natural man creates unique things. I could be wrong about that too, but that's just something to think about. So, everything to know about your internal monologue. Have you ever, quote unquote, heard yourself talk in your head? If you have, then you've experienced a common phenomenon called an internal monologue, also referred to as internal dialogue. The voice inside your head, or an inner voice. Your internal monologue is the result of certain brain mechanisms. This is according to science, and they don't know how the brain interacts with the spirit, but is the result of certain brain mechanisms that cause you to hear yourself talk in your head without actually speaking and forming sounds. While an internal monologue is a common occurrence, not everybody experiences it. There's a lot that researchers have yet to uncover about why some people frequently hear an inner voice and what it means. Read on to learn what's been discovered about the psychological phenomena thus far. Does everyone have one? The ability to have an internal monologue is thought to develop during childhood in what's called private speech. I highlight during childhood because I think that childhood, like, these are very important years of your life because they affect the rest of your life. How you develop during childhood, it has a big impact on the rest of your life. So again, if you come to this life and you find that this life is too hard and you decide to retreat and give everything over to the natural man, then that would go along with this. If that's what's actually happening, you have some children that are just too traumatized, and then all you have left is the natural man, and the child is just gone, just like Sam Vaknin, gone. So potentially no private speech. The spirit is not acting. It's just a spectator at that point. As children acquire language skills, they learn to engage in internal commentary as they work independently or take turns during an activity. Childhood inner voices can also come in the form of imaginary friends. In adulthood, this same type of inner speech continues to support working memory along with other types of cognitive processes. It's thought that internal monologue helps you complete everyday tasks such as your job. Still, not everyone experiences an inner voice. Excuse me. You might have inner thoughts, but this doesn't pose the same type of inner speech where you can hear your voice expressing them. It is also possible to have both an inner voice and inner thoughts, which you experience at intervals. Researchers don't fully understand why some people don't have an inner voice. One 2019 review of research suggests an association between dorsal pathway maturation and the emergence of inner speech in children. The dorsal and ventral the dorsal and ventral streams are language tracts in the brain. They're also involved in auditory and visual processing. Now, again, how are we gonna understand how the brain and the spirit interact and what controls what is strictly physical, physiological, and what is actually affected by the spirit? There's not a way to test for that. So for now, we just have to be like, well, this is what we see. And then maybe later on we'll find out, oh, it actually is like that because of the spirit. There's not a way to know right now. In childhood, the dorsal stream develops slower than the ventral system. The emergence of inner speech is influenced by dorsal stream development. It's unclear why some people don't have an internal monologue, but researchers speculate it has to do with the way the dorsal stream matures, among other things. Not hearing your inner voice doesn't necessarily mean you don't have an internal monologue, though, because some people access it visually instead of auditorily. For example, you might see to-do lists in your head, but not be able to hear yourself think. So that's interesting to think about as well. So people with a hearing impairment may experience their inner monologue through signs or images. If you find it difficult to picture your voluntary images in your head at all, you may have what's known as aphantasia. A 2021 study indicates that people with aphantasia may also experience anhedoralia, a term that's now being used to describe the absence of auditory imagery or the inner voice. Based on survey responses from self-reported aphantasics, a lack of internal monologue may co-occur with aphantasia. The researchers highlight the need for larger studies to untangle the overlap between the two. So, yeah, there's that as well. And I've known about this, people that can't picture things, actually picture things in their head. I remember watching one YouTube video where the girl, she talked about how she'd be at work and they would do a team building exercise, or they'd have an exercise where they're told, okay, picture that you're at the beach. And she didn't understand that other people were actually picturing in their minds a beach. She thought, oh, okay, I need to get into a beach mood. That's what that means. She didn't actually picture it in her mind. She thought it was incredible that other people are able to do that. But that's aphantasia. And, I have to wonder if it's the same thing or if it's something completely different. Don't know. Okay. And so let's go ahead and put that aside. I also wonder if the same may hold true with dreaming. Now, I've done a bunch of videos about dreams, and I'll put them in the description box below. It's pretty clear that dreams have various functions, but one of those functions is a spiritual function, because many people have spiritual experiences in their dreams. Sometimes they can see the future in their dreams, or they can be guided when they're trying to make a certain decision. And we have dreams in the scriptures. We have dreams when we talk about different stories with different prophets that have had important dreams. And I'm sure that you've had dreams that have affected you spiritually. I have. So if you're interested in what we've talked about so far when it comes to dreams, like I said, I'll put the links for these in the description box below. But I have videos like this: Dreaming and the Veil, Where Do We Go? Who Do We Meet? Because Brigham Young said some interesting things about that. Dreams from God or the Adversary, because some people were worried, well, how do you know if it's from the adversary? Well, there's a way to find out. You pray about it. You try the spirits. You pray. You pray for God to reveal it to you. There's this one, Dreams and Personal Revelation. Wilford Woodruff's Dreams, Visions, and Encounters with Angels. A live stream that I did where I was just having a lot of dreams last year, and I wanted to talk about it. That's what led to all this. The Temple, Parables in Dreams, Sacred Information Not Being Accessed. Because I noticed that it seems like the symbolism in the temple is very similar to our dreams, like as far as like symbolism goes. When you have a symbol, you can pack in a lot of information into that one thing, and then you can extract that information. So we have symbols in the temple. We also have symbols in our dreams, and I elaborate on that. And it was an interesting conversation. And then times of the Gentiles, dreams, Messianic Jews, John and the three Nephites. So make sure to check those out. But you have a similar thing. Does everyone dream? And it says 1 in every 250 people say they can't remember ever dreaming. Are they right? Everyone dreams, even people who believe that they never dream and can't remember any of their dreams. That's according to a group of French researchers writing in the Journal of Sleep Research, evidence that non-dreamers do dream. In questionnaire surveys, up to 6.5% of people report that they never dream, although most of these people report having dreamed at some point in the past. Roughly 1 in every 250 people say that they can't remember ever dreaming, not even once. Let's see. And then we got this one. Healthline, does everyone dream? Researchers have found important links between highly emotional life experiences and strong dream experiences. They're both processed in the same regions of the brain and along the same neural networks. Replaying powerful life experiences is just one way dreams can help us process emotions. And when you study narcissism, you know that they experience emotions, obviously, but it's much different from how you and I experience emotions and the type of emotions that we have. So it could be that they have different types of dreams or no dreams at all. For those dreams that are meant to be for spiritual purposes, if you have somebody that's not spiritual, someone that's given over mostly to the natural man, it may not be easy for them to remember their dreams, or they may, pay little attention to their dreams because they're not spiritual. The dreams may be there, but they quickly forget them because they don't place any importance on those type of things. Does that make sense? We usually remember or have an easier time remembering the things that are really important to us. So, we have to think about that. Continuing, it's also possible that dreams create a kind of problem-solving rehearsal that may boost your ability to handle real-life crises. Another theory is that dreams, especially strange ones, may help shrink scary experiences to a manageable size by placing fears side by side with really bizarre dream images. So yeah, and again, the life of a narcissist compared to somebody that's not a narcissist, the problem solving in their life is much different because they have a completely different life strategy than you do. So that may affect it as well. Okay, later on, why do some people think they don't dream? The short answer is that people who don't remember their dreams could easily conclude that they're just not dreaming. Not remembering dreams is not unusual. A large 2012 study of more than 28,000 people found that it's more common, now listen to this, it's more common for men to forget their dreams than for women. Over the last month or two, this is kind of a thing that's come up a couple times where men struggle more when it comes to spirituality. We've talked about it a number of times, and again, I have to wonder if this is why. If it's a matter of sensitivity to the spirit, if you're fully in control of yourself, like your spirit is in control rather than your natural man. When we look at, and not that this necessarily says anything, but you might be surprised to see on my Facebook page, my audience, according to this, almost 70% is women and then only 30% men. Now, that may have something to do with like women's preference for Facebook. I don't know. I have no idea. If you know, feel free to put it in the comments below, but I was kind of shocked by this. And then on YouTube, if we look at my analytics, it's not as drastic, but there are more women that follow my YouTube channel, 51.6% to 48.3%. And that's much closer. And you may uh, deem that difference, inconsequential, and maybe it is. I don't know, but the fact of the matter is it's 51.6 to 48.3. And I wish I could see, for example, the church YouTube channel and social media accounts, or I wish I could have access to more data. But I'm not really surprised that there's more women that are, it's not because, I'm not saying it's because of my channel, just, this is a spiritual channel. We talk about spiritual things. And if women do better, if they tend to be more spiritual than men, or there's more women that are spiritual than men, then you would expect to see something like this. So, but you have this thing with dreams. It's more common for men to forget their dreams than for women. So I'm just going to say it like this. I would not be surprised if all these things, dreaming, inner dialogue, being able to picture things, if it runs along those lines, if there's some type of relation between that and wickedness or pride or narcissism or whatever you want to call it. If your spirit has retreated and it's not in control, then there are probably a lot of things that are not functioning correctly in that life, and these are probably some of those things. So I think that's about all that I have to share for this one. Just make sure to check all this stuff out. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.